You are Locked On Mammoth, your daily podcast on the Utah Mammoth, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Veggie saves the Mammoth's bacon. Yes, that's right. The home opener. I think we're going to talk a lot about veg in this one. A 3-1 win for the Utah Mammoth. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us as always for Locked On Mammoth. I'm veteran NHL voice Tom Callahan. As always, alongside longtime team analyst Robyn Leano. Hey, thanks for making us your first listen each and every single day when it comes to the Utah Mammoth hockey team. A live post-game show right now as we are riding the wave, Tusky and all, of a 3-1 win over the Calgary Flames. Robyn, there were some pretty good things in this. There were also some nail-biting, I think, things in this. There was a little bit of clenching, and the jaw was getting tight in the third period towards the end. We're going to talk about all that on the show here because this was a crazy game. This was a kitchen sink game. There was a little bit of everything in here.
Oh, yeah, there was the physicality. We had those brief moments of offense. Defense was showcasing its talent. It's everything you wanted in a hockey game into one, but all split into different periods.
Gotta let you know that the show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Robyn, coming into this one, the Calgary Flames were 1-3. They were on a back-to-back. And you could be forgiven for thinking, well, that might make it pretty easy pickings for the Utah Mammoth. Calgary should be tired. They flew in from Calgary, so it's not like they were just next town over. They come in, and somehow the Flames end up with a 1-0 lead in this first period. And really, it was interesting from the get-go because on opening night, there's a lot going on. They introduce a brand new mascot, Tusky, who we're going to talk about later. They have possibly the sweetest on-ice prop that you or I have seen. We are really digging that tunnel that the guys are skating through. But, I mean, Robyn, all that, the energy, the excitement, you come out, you want to get out there and do something for the home fans, but somehow the Flames end up on the board first.
Yeah, and that's what scared me a bit too. And because in that moment, we weren't seeing Utah generating the offense that we were hoping to right out of the gate. The expectation was they would get all the atmosphere and all the energy, and Utah would channel that. And they didn't really do that at first. I mean, they had better, quote, possession metrics in the first period still, slightly, than the Flames did, but they weren't getting the better opportunities.
I also felt like there were just a lot of penalties.
That makes a big difference, right? I texted you, Tom. Like, it just tells you like what Tom and I do. We actually talk and we text with each other during the game with giving our thoughts, and I was like, oh no, this is going to be one of those games where we're going to be penalty after penalty after penalty, and it's going to just be a long night.
Yeah, it was kind of tough to watch a couple of these calls that were made in the early going. And of course, I mean, they were there the whole night. Believe it or not, Utah went 0 for 6 on the power play. And that's kind of part and parcel of what we talked about. The power play, the regular numbers were good last year, but it was the moments where you needed it. Tonight, they could have went up 2-1. They could have went up 3-1 after they did have a 2-1 lead. If the power play would have converted and gave them that extra goal, they would have had a lot more breathing room, I think. Might have been a different game.
They could have. And I'm glad you brought that up because it's something that I don't talk about all that much, but I want to be able to say it a lot more. Is just being able to see what the power play can do. As you said, last year they were fine, but in moments they weren't. And I'm going to use the quote here, using around quotes word for this word because you could, depending on what you want to say, is quote clutch, right? Yeah. They weren't clutch, and I didn't see. And this game kind of showed that where they had the opportunities, but they didn't make the finish. They didn't come out in those important opportunities that they really can get to really come ahead. I mean, yes, they won. We can be happy about that. We're going to be excited about that. We're going to talk a lot more about this win over the course of this show. But you and I, Tom, we like the nitpick. We love the nitpick.
Hey, the win is what matters. That was important. It's nice to see Peterka scored. Wow, that was a great goal by JJ Peterka.
Ooh, that
was silky smooth. That was awesome. Want to get your questions in the comments, by the way, as well. Go ahead and drop them in there as we're doing the show live on YouTube here post game. Of course, it'll be reposted in the morning as well. But want to get everybody's thoughts in there. Robyn, everybody's kind of talking about Tusky right now in the comments. So can we divert for a moment? We'll come back and talk some more hockey. But I think we kind of need to talk about Tusky here for a minute because you know what? Reaction seems to be fairly positive.
And it's funny. Like I love the side of Mammoth Twitter that I follow, right? That I'm mutuals with or whatever. Where essentially the gist of the emotions from people and just of like everyone's thoughts where I'm gonna die for Tusky. Like I'll die. I will die for Tusky. And there it is.
There's Tusky. Yep. I mean, Tusky, the most interesting part about it, I think, and a lot of people have commented about it, is how it's the mountain blue. And that was kind of the thing that I think grabbed most people's attention, but it's not offensive in any way. I mean, it's a decent looking mascot and it really pulls off the woolly mammoth thing pretty well, I think. And you know what? It's just cute enough for kids. Right, but it's still got a little mean, a little edge to it. It's really hard to pull off a mascot that looks good in all situations, but this one I think is pretty well done.
It does. Plus two, and I think not very many teams pull it off well, and where you can do, but you can get a skating mascot. We're
gonna lose Robyn here in a minute, but yeah, no, a skating mascot is important. And I feared for Tusky's life when Tusky came out of the ice and like the ice blocks went in front of it. And I was like, no, don't step on the ice blocks, Tusky. I was actually pretty worried about that for a minute. Like that's all you need is your mascot to bite it right out of the gate there. That would be the worst thing.
You mean like the story of how in like what was it, like the mid 90s or whatever, for as example, when SJ Sharkey for the Sharks got stuck in the rafters?
Yes. Nash actually had that happen too for the Predators. And Robyn, if I can find it, I will try to find a way to get the audio uploaded. And if I can't find it, I think Pete Weber, who I worked with over in Nashville, does still have it. Chuck Caton, the voice of the Whalers / Hurricanes, actually tells the story about how when they launched their mascot, they almost killed the guy in the costume.
Oh my God.
I'm going to save that. I will put that up as a short or something. I'm going to find it. Chuck tells it way funnier than I ever could. The guy lived. It's fine. Everything's good. But you're going to have to hear that story. It's pretty awesome. So, but yeah, I think in general, thumbs up on the mascot, right? We agree?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And as you said, it's that kind of mascot that everyone can get behind. It's that level of cute, but it's also that level of like just enough where it's of all age friendly.
Yes, I would agree with that. So in the comments, we've just got a couple of folks talking about some of the hockey stuff, and I think it's Gemu is how I'm going to pronounce that. Would love a deep dive of the third period. Believe me,
we're going to get
Robyn has brought charts and graphs, and we are going to get into this. It is,
you know me. I did it during in our little post game, our pre-recorded post game of the Chicago game, and I'm going to bring it up again in just a moment here. But this is the way I roll.
Not only are we going to talk about the third, but we also have to illustrate it using the second period as well, where they were all over Calgary offensively, but just couldn't quite put the puck in the net. And I have a thought that I have to absolutely get out there about Sergachev. Driving me nuts. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, the NFL season's here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting, or hockey, of course, when you've got a little something riding on the action. Maybe you're a casual fan, or like Robyn, you love diving deep into those stats. FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño here with you, Locked on Mammoth. Hey, if you're here and you're in the live, you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do that right now. It really does help us a lot, not only with the algorithm, but also lets us know, hey, lives are what you like this, you like that. Click the bell, by the way, if you're over here on the YouTube side. That also lets you know when we drop new content. And Robyn, soon, I'm going to tease this now, but there was a town hall meeting that we had for all the Locked On folks. There is a couple of new and exciting things coming for the, I'll say the super Uber fans who love the show, love the team. We'll talk more about those at a later date once we're ready to roll on that, but pretty cool.
Can't wait to share everybody what we got brewing.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So, again, throw your comments in as we do this live post game here. We will definitely talk about those. I will say this, Robyn, I'm going to kind of turn it over to you and let you dissect this how you will. I will have my comments and my thoughts as well, but if you want to look at the second period first, you want to go to the third, dive right into the third period, and then we can come back to the second.
Well, I think first and foremost, what I want to do is show everybody the game flow chart. And by the way, all the charts that I have and that I show on the show are courtesy of the website, advanced analytics website, Natural Stat Trick, where it really shows you Corsi, Fenwick, scoring chances, high danger, all of that, right? So they have a game flow chart. And for information purposes, I only take 5-on-5. It kind of gives you the best even strength rather than everything else. But take a look at what I mentioned first and foremost from the first period, where Utah on 5-on-5 were slightly better positional, but they just didn't have as much luck. They just didn't generate all the good as good of an offense. Plus, as you mentioned, Tom, with all those penalties, slowed the game down a little bit. But it was the second period where they really took off, where that team really took forward. You take a look in that early, just the first few minutes. You have Hayton's goal right there in the first couple of minutes. Then you got Peterka's goal. And just those first few minutes alone, you can see that's where the Corsi really jumps up. That's when it really goes up to them. It goes up to like a +10, I believe, where it's showing here on this screen. And it stays at around there throughout the entire second period, Tom, where then everything drops off. Utah offense is all of a sudden nowhere to be found, and Calgary is slowly finding to see if it can maybe find its way back into the game. And the game ends with Calgary, despite losing to the Mammoth, Calgary actually having a better Corsi by the end of the game.
Now, I want to remind everybody, Corsi is shots on goal, attempts blocked, and shots that miss the net. All of those things are included in Corsi. So you really see the Mammoth. I think at one point they mentioned they had 38 shot attempts in that second period, Robyn, and the period wasn't even over yet. They were absolutely firing. The concern for me is that, okay, they get those 2 early goals, but then they kept up the pressure, weren't able to extend that lead. And I think that to me was a little bit puzzling. You know, I really felt like they could have converted on a couple of chances there. And it's, again, even head coach Andre Tourny is talking about the same. We need to get guys to the front of the net. We need bodies there. We need those greasy, hardworking goals. Look at the goals they scored. I mean, first of all, Peterka's, again, breakaway, beautiful, was amazing. But that is not we're looking for the exact opposite of that. We're looking to throw pucks to the net, get bodies, arrive in ill humor, be angry, and, knock it in with your shovel. The Mammoth don't have that right now.
No, and I mean, and even to an extent, in Hayton's goal, I mean, that was a beautiful snapshot, right? Just right there in the slot, finding it the perfect spot opportunity to get that snapshot. Absolutely beauty of a goal, by the way. That was one of my my favorites.
That was really nice. So that just showed sweet hands. I mean, everything in a fluid motion, just so nice. That's what Peterka brings. Nothing on the defensive side, but all of that offensive magic. That's what you saw there. Robyn, I wanted to talk a little bit too about going into the third period, because that's where the Mammoth, even early on, that map we just looked at there, the flow chart, 5-on-5, the Mammoth really did have a pretty decent start to the third period, but Calgary just wore them down, and all of a sudden the ice tilted the other way, and the Flames were all over the Mammoth.
Yeah, they absolutely were. And at one point, if you were listening to the broadcast at all, one thing you caught, I think it's towards like the middle half of the third period, where John Marino was stuck on the ice for an over 2-minute shift. Tom, over a 2-minute shift, which is, in hockey sense, that's a long time. That feels like you're on there forever.
And it was 2 minutes of killing a penalty, because then after Keller got out of the box, they took an icing and he had to stay out there even longer. That's an eternity. Like 5-on-5 shift would be bad enough, but killing a penalty for 2 minutes, oh my goodness.
Which is why when you solve a chip, like just to get out of the zone, just to give Marino enough time to get that changed. You could tell that he was just getting that breath, that just gasp of air once he got to the bench, because that gets tiring, especially when you're trying to kill a forecheck like that.
Absolutely. I want to get to some more of the comments here, Robyn, but I also want to get to the heat maps that you have as well. So I know you want to talk about these, so let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I think what I want to do is actually reshare first and foremost, because we were talking about high danger chances, right? And where they can get opportunities down in low. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reshare the game from against the Blackhawks, right? You take a look where there's a decent amount of heat around the perimeter, especially around that blue line, that high blue line area. There was a lot down low, but still it was all over the place. When you take a look at tonight's game, there were a couple of shots along the perimeter. And again, that's what this team does, but it looks a little bit cleaner where you can see where the two goals are, right? You can see where Hayton's goal is and where Peterka's goal is, just right in the slot in those high danger areas. That's what you want to see. That gets a little bit cleaner. And again, Tom, it wasn't perfect, as I mentioned earlier, but they're at least getting better and at least understanding it a little bit more.
Yeah, I really like the shots coming from in close, right in front of the goaltender. Cooley, who, by the way, played really well tonight for the Flames, I thought. He was a very inspired choice for them, because he looked really good out there on the second half of back-to-backs. I think Utah's got to find a way to up the degree of difficulty on their shot selection a little bit, which I've been harping on a little bit early in the season here. I would like to see them not just kind of fire it towards the pads, maybe try to elevate a little bit, try to maybe get a little bit different look. Even if it's just a little sidestep, a couple inches either way opens up a different shooting angle. I would like to see some more of that. But look, the Mammoth flooding the net with chances, I'm still very pleased with that part of it. That's fine. But the inconsistency that rears its ugly head here and carries us into the third period, where all of a sudden the Mammoth were just kind of, at times they were standing around, at times they were hanging back, they were being passive. And that allowed Calgary to just kind of roll over them. And again, like I said at the very top of the show, Veggie saved the bacon for the Utah Mammoth.
Yeah, Veggie looked great towards the end there, right? Like second period, he didn't really have to work as much, right? And then all of a sudden he goes into full workload towards the end there, and so much credit to him for keeping the win, really.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that was a big.
I mean, well deserved for getting second star. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So I really appreciate that. By the way, the goals tonight: Anderson scored a power play goal for Calgary, and then it was Barrett Hayton, JJ Peterka, and then Stenlund into an empty net that iced up that win. Robyn, I think during the third period, again, the giveaways defensively kind of started to rear their ugly head. The lack of clears. There were some good plays along the wall, and some Lawson Krause had a real nice clear. Nate Schmidt had an excellent effort up top pursuing the puck, almost put himself out onto a breakaway. Like some of those hardworking plays, you need everybody to do that. But there's a couple of players, Mikhail Sergachev, that did not do that. Okay, we need to talk about Mikhail Sergachev. So, Robyn, I'm a little annoyed. Is it possible that Mikhail Sergachev's defense has gotten worse from last year to this year? Because I was watching, and I've been watching this pair, right, with Simashev, and I wanted to know how it was going to do. I did not think Simashev was going to be as defensively responsible as he was in the game, while Sergachev was firing passes that were not only errant, but then also lackadaisical in coming back, and then took that early penalty in the first period. This was from the first period. I can't make the guy play harder. I can't make him do things. And you know what? He's great on the power play. He's got fantastic offensive instincts. And sometimes in his own zone, he's able to wheel the puck out of trouble because he is so skilled. But Robyn, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I feel like it's worse this year defensively for a guy who's supposed to be coming into his own, who's supposed to be the number one defenseman, supposed to be coming into his prime. I don't know if I'm seeing it right. And that's concerning.
See, there's Tom, and it's interesting you bring it up because there's this thing that a lot of people are starting to get their frustrations with offensive defensemen, and what we're seeing is offensive defensemen are practically just another forward, and it can be a good thing, but it can also be a liability, and it can get frustrating as you're pointing out. It can get that level of frustrating, and especially when you feel like the rest of the defense is doing as much as they can to pull their own weight.
Yeah, it makes it difficult. It really does. And again, I credit Simashev for being pretty defensively responsible, and the other pairs I thought were good, but they're the stability that we talked about that they were going to be. Marino is not going crazy, although he almost scored a goal.
That was
a pretty
funny.
Nice little move. I thought that was really cool. It was nice to see him up there, and he really pushed the attack, almost found a scoring opportunity. But I mean, those are few and far between, those guys. And we talk about it, Cole and Schmidt and Mata. They're going to be defensively responsible. I'm just still, I don't know. I am still a little concerned. I wish if Sergachev would add just a little more D in there. Just a little bit more. Just give me another 10% defensive awareness. I think that could really radically change what's going on defensively for the Mammoth right now. And that's not a bad thing, but you just somehow need to get him to do it.
No, you really do. And, shout out to Sterling, by the way, who said, Sergeys and Kellers of the world seem like they are in preseason form. They didn't need to try hard to make the team because they were already on the team.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. And of course, again, we can talk about not having the line chemistry right out of the gate because you were missing your centers for a while and all that stuff. Yes, I understand. There are definitely reasons for that. I don't know. I would definitely like to see more. Robyn, I've got one comment. So I want to know your feelings on this one because I heard them mention it and I actually heard it over the crowd mic when it happened. But Skylar saying our head coach telling the team to skate late in the third is not a good look. Need more urgency over the 60 minutes. Your thoughts?
I saw that comment too, and I was going to bring it up too, Tom, because I see that and I'm like 100%. It is not that great. If your coach is telling you guys that you got to put in the full effort, the full 60-minute game, you got to skate. But the thing is, we didn't see that, right? It looked like it did look like at that point the team was just kind of taking a back seat. They were just not they were just in the defensive shell, not really focused on pushing forward. This team should be, and again, we talked about the physicality and everything like that, right? They should be having that power forward kind of mentality. Most of them should, right? Like use those physicality to push yourselves forward and skate up the ice, and then go on your own forecheck.
Yeah, and I want to bring back the map from earlier, the game flow map from naturalstattrick.com. Look at Utah maybe a third of the way into Robyn that third period, where all of a sudden it just looks like they hit the wall because it drops so fast. And that's where Calgary really kind of started to make their inroads. And then Utah got that little bit of a bump. And then all of a sudden, boom, it was all Calgary all the time until the empty net goal. The Flames actually reversed everything around for basically the better part of the third period. And so you look at Utah kind of going back into that shell and worrying about the effort and hearing the coach yelling at him, telling them to skate. And Robyn, these guys shouldn't be tired. It's October, right? That's not an excuse. There's no one is fatigued. They had a couple of days off. There is something missing in the motivator. Okay. It's like Luke Skywalker, Uncle Owen. This R2 unit's got a bad motivator. You know, I don't know what the hell a motivator is, but I know that droid didn't have it. And I know these guys don't seem like they have it all the time. Certainly not for 60 minutes, not consistently. How do we get that? What is that? Is it still coaching? I don't want to keep banging that drum all the time because I know people get sick of hearing it, but man, I feel like even when the coach is yelling at the guys to skate, do we need a cattle prod? Do we need a poker? What do we need here?
There needs to be something. And Tom, I have sometimes said that like it can either be the coaches go back and say, hey, we need to readdress this and do whatever. If the coach, if whatever is the coaches is saying falling on deaf ears, that might not be a good look. But I have said this multiple times. I leave that up also to your player leadership. So to Clayton Keller, to Lawson Krause, to whoever else wears an A in any given day, because I know it's a rotating A for the rest outside of Keller and Krause. Take control of that locker room and be like, what can we do to make sure that everyone puts a full effort from the first puck drop to the end of the horn?
Because it was a win. It goes to the win column. It is the first regulation win of the year. But man, it almost felt like a loss at times.
Because again, it looked in that third period, right? It looked like they were defeated. But what's going on? You're winning.
Yeah. No, it was strange. And the fans, I saw a couple of folks who said they were at the game. They said it was awesome, so fun to be at. Paul was at the game, said it was so fun to be at. It looked amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It looked like a blast.
I mean, we talked about all the different things.
So loud.
That they had to go.
Yeah, the plaza party, everybody was pumped. The fans were pumped. The show before everything got going, the mascot reveal, it was all a lot of fun.
But tunnel prop again, and I want to bring that up again because that was really cool. Look, I got spoiled as a kid with an awesome tunnel prop, but this tunnel prop is really cool.
Yeah. This one is, yes, I agree. If you haven't seen it, we'll try to get a picture of that one up at some point, probably not during the show here, but I do want to encourage anyone. We've got a couple of minutes left if you want to get any questions in. But Robyn, when you talk about this game, and we're going to break it down in the next couple of days, this is the first of 4 at home now, home sweet home. But what are you taking out of this game? Positive, negative? What are you thinking?
I mean, I'll just say that the top 6 knows what knows how to generate the offense. This we've already seen, right? I broke down the forward lines, said what they look like based off of on those Corsi numbers. We just need to see them finish. We need to see that finish. We need to see more effort all around. I mean, we're glad we saw we did see more effort in the physicality department. Jack McBain with some pretty amazing hits out there. But I want to see more. And Tom, to me, it's going to start with, and we're going to get to the preview, later on in the week, but it's going to start with what should be an absolute domination over San Jose.
Yes. And by the way, Tanev and Krause finished tied for the team lead with 6 hits apiece tonight. So I do like to see that stat.
That's good.
Yes, that is definitely a good stat. Utah 23 and 30 in the faceoff circle, though, for 43%. I don't like that stat. So that one's a little bit rougher. It was a tough night for McBain in the circle. He only went 2 and 5. And wow, Nick Schmaltz was 0 and 5. Nick Schmaltz 0 and 5.
How about that, though? That's
didn't win a draw.
How about
I actually thought he had a decent game, but apparently not in the circle.
It was interesting to see Schmaltz move into the circle versus Hayton. Because if you remember, it was Hayton at first at center, and then they moved Schmaltz in.
Right. And they were moving stuff around. They were looking for a little bit of a spark there.
They had to, right? Because they needed to juggle something around because something wasn't working at first.
Yeah. I will say this, though, even into the third period at that point, and that's not the time to shorten your bench, but Robyn, this is going to be the second or maybe even third episode in a row where I've harped on this. We need more out of the bottom 6. I think we are starting to get more out of the bottom 6, right? I thought the efforts were better tonight out of the bottom 6. But now here we go around to the other end where, okay, the top 6, the chances seem to be there the last couple of games, but the results were not. You know what? Maybe it is time to scramble those around a little bit. Maybe we do see a Cooley flip-flop. And it's something a little bit different.
And again, Tom, and it's going to go in with the preview, and to reiterate, I think and we'll see how that might work with what I might just call a pad the stat night against the Sharks. And it looks like Scott asked how many goals against the Sharks on Friday. I mean, 4, maybe more. like look, and also again, this is something to be like that can also test the defense, by the way, because the Sharks against Vegas and Anaheim, by the way, scored like 7 goals, like 14 goals within those 2 games.
So, by the way, the Buffalo Sabres exploded for 8 goals tonight. So, barring anyone who was close to the Mammoth getting shut out, which I haven't checked all the finals yet, so I don't 100% know, but I'm pretty sure the Mammoth now have the fewest goals for in the league. So
that's not something you want to be associated with right now. So if you want to fix that, score a touchdown against the Sharks.
I think Sterling has the solutions here, or actually, Sterling's got the solution. Phil Kessel's still a free agent.
Oh God.
You know what? I kind of love Phil Kessel. I was not a big Phil Kessel person in the beginning of his career, but you know what? I kind of love the guy now. Like he's that guy. He's like the huggable. He is the in-room mascot for any team he ends up with. You never know. Look, he's not going to be in shape. He's not going to be anything except deadly with the puck on his stick. So if it ever got to that point, I guess you could bring him in, but you'd have to hide him well. And on a team that hasn't shown a ton of defensive responsibility on a consistent basis, I don't know if that's worth it. So, yeah, we will see. We will see. Calgary hung around tonight, though. Gave the Mammoth everything they could handle. So, Robyn, I think you've got to tip your cap to Cooley and net for the Flames. Played well. And somehow, I mean, between him and just the Flames weathering it, Phil will sell so many hot dogs at Delta Center. I love that. He absolutely would. You know what? I do have to give some credit to Calgary, but again, I feel like this was more the Mammoths' game to win. They did at least win it, but it just felt like it could have been better, you know? I felt like it could have been more. Is that fair? Am I expecting too much? Should I just be happy with my 2 points?
Well, I think is because we are all centered around what should be the hype. There is extra level of expectation on a home opener, and I think that's why we wanted that. I wanted all that more.
That's fair. That's fair. I can go with that. Anything else you want to drop in the thoughts here, Robyn? Anything else as we get ready to wrap up this live post game show?
No, I think we touched on it all. And again, we'll have a full preview of Utah versus San Jose coming out on tomorrow's episode. So be sure to stay tuned for that as well.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to see the Tusky plushes when they come out. Those things are going to be pretty adorable.
Can't wait.
So, all right. Well, that'll wrap it up for this live postcast here for Locked On Mammoth. We thank you all for joining us. Hey, if you like what you hear, please tell your friends, let them know about the show, share the show with them. Every little bit helps. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like, show us some love. And again, we've got some big things coming for the diehard fans, the everydayers. You guys are going to love some of the programs that are coming up here. We're going to share them with you as soon as we are ready to roll them out network wide. So for Robyn, I'm Tom. Thank you so much for being a part of Locked On Man.